We live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
President Trump swings into damage control mode amid a firestorm of criticism over his comments at a summit with Vladimir Putin, lauding U.S. intelligence agencies and publicly accepting that Russia meddled in the 2016 election.
He offered to have
Tropical depression in Dai intensified further, may become tropical storm in 24 hours.
A vast fire in Northern California has destroyed 50 or more than 12,000 acres, left one person dead, and is threatening Yosemite National Park. I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. A total of 1,120 individuals, mostly from Cavite and Rodriguez Rizal, were evacuated today due to floods brought about by the southwest monsoon and Tropical Storm Henry, according to the Philippine National Police in Calabarzon, Cavite, Laguna, Batangas, Rizal, and Quezon. As of 5 a.m. Wednesday, the Police Regional Office 4A said 870 evacuees were from Rodriguez Rizal, 119 were from Imus, and 131 were from Tanza in Cavite Province. A lone casualty was reported in Calatagan, Batangas, where 12 individuals have been stranded in the floods. Floods were also reported in some areas in Nasugbu, Batangas, and in the towns of Cainta and San Mateo in Rizal. Meanwhile, a portion of Barangay Ligas in Bacoor City, Cavite, and the road near the spillway in Catandala in Ibaan, Batangas are not accessible to all types of vehicles. PNP Calabarzon said 252 search and rescue personnel have been deployed mostly in Laguna and Batangas, while 1,002 personnel are on standby.
Malacanang welcomed the amendments on the proposed federal constitution's transitory provisions made by the Consultative Committee, or CONCOM, noting that this would allay public fears that President Rodrigo Duterte intends to stay beyond the end of his term in 2022. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque made this remark after the CONCOM discussed before the Senate on Tuesday the salient features of the draft federal constitution. On the same day, CONCOM spokesperson Ding Generoso released a copy of the final draft charter to media a week after Duterte approved the proposed federal constitution in total, except the transitory provisions. In the first draft released last July 9, the CONCOM assigned Duterte as chairman of the Federal Transition Commission, or FTC. However, the president wanted this changed. Roque, citing President Duterte, said electing a transition president would enable a younger leader to take over.
Confirmed that the president, of course, received already yesterday afternoon from the Consultative Committee the draft constitution that will usher in the country's shift from unitary to federal system of government. Also, the CONCOM was instructed by the President to revise the transitory provisions because the President wants to provide for an elective transition leader since he articulated in the Cabinet that he will no longer serve as a transition leader. He wants to step down as soon as the people have ratified the federal constitution, and he wants someone younger to be elected by the people to serve as a transition leader.
Roque earlier said President Duterte wanted to step down before the end of his term because aside from wanting to remove the notion that he wanted to stay in power beyond his term, he was also tired.
Ang sabi po niya, yan ang kanyang proposal una-una para mawala yung suspecha na meron siyang ibang binabalak para dito sa charter change. At pangalawa, dahil siya'y pagod na pagod na. He said he was very tired. He is old And siguro itong electing a transition leader would enable a younger leader to take over.
Bakit pagod na siya, Secretary?
Hindi naman niya sinabi, no? Basta ang sinabi lang niya is nais niyang manilbihan hanggang maapruban ang bagong saligang batas at mukhang ang kanyang assumption ay magkakaroon ng plebisito itong 2019.
To the U.S. now, President Trump moved to limit the damage from his summit with President Vladimir Putin, claiming he misspoke in appearing to accept the Russian leader's denial of election meddling in a rebuke to U.S. intelligence chiefs. At their meeting in Helsinki on Monday, President Trump failed to challenge President Putin over the 2016 presidential election, seeming to accept at face value the strongman's denial that Moscow interfered in a bid to undermine Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton.
That's an incredible offer. He offered to have. President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today, and what he did is an incredible offer. He offered to have the people working on the case come and work with their investigators with respect to the 12 people. I think that's an incredible offer.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, I'm a bit...
With outrage at home, with even some of his political allies demanding that he reverse course.
In the entire history of our country, Americans have never seen a president of the United States support an adversary the way President Trump has supported President Putin. For the President of the United States to side with President Putin against American law enforcement, American defense officials, American intelligence agencies, is thoughtless, it's dangerous, it's weak. The President is putting himself over our country.
Now, President Trump, in an extraordinary postscript to the summit, sought to walk back his remarks.
I thought that I made myself very clear by having just reviewed the transcript. Now, I have to say, I came back and I said, what is going on? What's the big deal? So I got a transcript, I reviewed it. I actually went out and reviewed a clip of an answer that I gave. And I realized that there is a need for some clarification. It should have been obvious. I thought it would be obvious, but I would like to clarify just in case it wasn't. In a key sentence in my remarks, I said the word would instead of wouldn't. The sentence should have been, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't, or why it wouldn't be Russia. So, just to repeat it, I said the word would instead of wouldn't, and the sentence should have been, and I thought it would be maybe a little bit unclear on the transcript or unclear on the actual video. The sentence should have been, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be Russia. Sort of a double negative. So you can put that in, and I think that probably clarifies things pretty good by itself.
But the U.S. president found little support for his decision not to confront the Russian leader. On either side of the political aisle, former House Speaker and longtime Trump ally Newt Gingrich put it bluntly, it is the most serious mistake of his presidency and must be corrected immediately, he tweeted as Trump headed home. By Tuesday afternoon, when he faced the cameras, President Trump had changed tack.
We're doing everything in our power to prevent Russian interference in 2018. Let me begin by saying that, once again, the full faith and support for America's intelligence agencies. I have a full faith in our intelligence agencies. Whoops, they just turned off the light. That must be the intelligence agencies. There it goes. Okay. You guys okay? Good. It was strange, but that's okay. And I have felt very strongly that while Russia's actions had no impact at all on the outcome of the election, let me be totally clear in saying that, and I've said this many times, I accept our intelligence community's conclusion that Russia's meddling in the 2016 election took place. Could be other people also. There's a lot of people out there. There was no collusion at all.
Now, after his remarks, the White House released a fact sheet on how the U.S. is standing up to Russia's malign activities, a clear bid to counter the notion that President Trump had been soft on Putin. While Trump was not entirely without defenders, the bipartisan consensus was broadly hostile to his stance in Helsinki, as the top Republican in Congress, House Speaker Paul Ryan, made clear at a press conference Tuesday on Capitol Hill. Take a listen.
We stand by our NATO allies and all those countries who are facing Russia aggression. How many times have I stood up here and told you what I think about Vladimir Putin? Vladimir Putin does not share our interests. Vladimir Putin does not share our values. We just conducted a year-long investigation into Russia's interference in our elections. They did interfere in our elections. It's really clear. There should be no doubt about that. We passed tough sanctions on Russia so that we can hold them accountable. I understand the desire and the need to have good relations. That's perfectly reasonable, but Russia is a menacing government that does not share our interests and it does not share our values, and I think that should be made very, very clear.
Meanwhile, former President Barack Obama appeared to allude to his successor in a speech in South Africa, blasting strongman politics without naming President Trump. Take a listen.
I can't find common ground if somebody says climate change is just not happening, when almost all the world's scientists tell us it is. I don't know where to start talking to you about this. If you start saying it's an elaborate hoax, I don't know what to... Where do we start? It used... Look. Let me say, politicians have always lied, but it used to be if you caught them lying, they'd be like, oh man. Now they just keep on lying. They just... But given the strange and uncertain times that we are in, and they are strange, and they are uncertain, with each day's news cycles bringing more head-spinning and disturbing headlines, I thought maybe it would be useful to step back for a moment and try to get some perspective. All the world's scientists tell us it is.
Elon Musk apologizes for calling a British caver who helped rescue 12 Thai boys from a cave a pedo, retracting a comment that had drawn widespread outrage and briefly sent shares in Tesla tumbling. Tesla CEO Musk issued the apology on Wednesday to Vernon Unsworth, who worked on the rescue of the Wild Boars football team and had ridiculed Musk's plan to recover the trapped group using a miniature submarine. His actions against me do not justify my actions against him, and for that I apologize to Mr. Unsworth and to the companies I represent as a leader. Musk wrote on Twitter that the fault is mine and mine alone. Pedo is short for pedophile. His spat with Unsworth began after the British caving expert dismissed Musk's plan to rescue the Thai football team from the Tham Luang cave as a PR stunt. Unsworth had said the plan to use the device to extract the boys through a narrow series of twisting, flooded tunnels would have had absolutely no chance of working. He added that Musk could stick his submarine where it hurts. Writing on Twitter on Wednesday, Musk said his words against Unsworth had been spoken in anger after Mr. Unsworth said several untruths and suggested I engage in a sexual act with the submarine. The submarine had been built as an act of kindness, and according to specifications from dive team leader, Musk said before apologizing to Unsworth.
Meanwhile, the 12 boys and their football coach, who survived a highly dangerous and dramatic rescue from a flooded Thai cave, spoke publicly of their incredible ordeal for the first time on Wednesday at a press conference that was beamed around the world. Now, they appeared on stage in their football kit alongside the members of the Thai Navy SEALs who had helped rescue them. The Wild Boars team members looked healthy and they looked happy as they answered questions about the 9 days they spent in the dark before being discovered by members of an international rescue team. Coach Eka Paul Chentawang told the press conference that they tried to dig their way out and survived on rainwater for 9 days before being found and then later rescued. One of the team members said they drank water that fell from the rocks before being found by the 2 British divers. 9 days passed before the boys were found by 2 British rescue divers. But elation quickly turned to concern as it became clear just how difficult it would be to rescue boys who couldn't even swim and had been weakened by their time underground with little food or light. Now the dangers of the journey were underscored by the death of a former Thai Navy SEAL driver, Saman Ganan, who died while taking oxygen tanks into the cave complex. The news continues here on Eagle News International. We'll be right back.
The UN Secretary General has called on the Nicaraguan government to end months of violence against demonstrators, which has cost an estimated 280 lives, and begin a national political dialogue to end the crisis.
The Secretary General deplores and condemns the ongoing violence against civilians, including against students. He calls on the Nicaraguan government to provide effective protection to its population against attacks, ensure respect for human rights, and establish accountability for the violence. The use of lethal force is not only unacceptable, but is also in itself an obstacle to obtaining a political solution to the current crisis.
Echoing the appeal, the UN Human Rights Office, ONHCR, on Tuesday said that the violence had been overwhelmingly perpetrated by the state and pro-government armed elements. Here's CHR spokesperson Rupert Colville.
The appalling loss of life in Nicaragua must stop now. It's imperative that the Nicaraguan state, which has obligations under international human rights law to guarantee the right to life and security of the population, as well as the rights to freedom of expression and peaceful assembly, and takes concrete steps as soon as possible to end the crisis and find a peaceful solution. The violence is all the more horrific as armed elements loyal to the government are operating with the active or tacit support of the police and other state authorities.
At least 12 people were killed over the weekend. In one incident, 2 died when shots were fired at a church in the capital Managua, where student demonstrators had sought refuge after the university they had been occupying came under attack.
Going now to India, a girl who has a hearing disability was allegedly sexually assaulted inside a largely unoccupied apartment block in the southern city of Chennai. Now, among those arrested now were the 300 flats building security guards, plumber, and elevator operator, according to state police. The 66-year-old lift operator was the first to attack the girl after she returned from school and was cycling around the complex, according to police. He allegedly invited other men who filmed each other raping the child. As the ordeal progressed, she was sedated with injections and drug-laced soft drinks. The incident came to light after the girl told her family, who had then lodged a police complaint. She's now receiving medical attention. India has a grim record of sexual violence. Some 19,000 attacks on minors were reported in 2016, but vast numbers are never brought to police attention.
The UP singing ambassador was in Europe, and our ABC correspondent in Europe was able to catch up with them. Just to recall, the University of the Philippines singing ambassadors, under the baton of founder and conductor Edgardo Manguiat and Barcelona-based Filipino children's choir Kudyapi, under musical director Arnel La Morena Herman, won over choirs from Germany, Sweden, and the United States. Here's Malu Francisco.
The multi-awarded UP singing ambassadors are currently on a tour here in Europe for 3 months. I was able to catch up with the founder, conductor, Dr. Ed Manguiat in Bonn, Germany. I asked him what the highlights are in this year's tour of Europe with the UP singing ambassadors.
This time we're participating and representing our country in 4 major competitions in Europe. We just finished and won the grand prize at the Berlin Sing Berlin Festival, and 2 first prizes and the grand prize.
And it goes to the University of the Philippines.
We're joining the competitions in Torrevieja, Spain, and we'll be joining the Habanera Polyphonica in Torrevieja, Spain, and then we're going to Florence, and then we're going to, the highlight of our tour is participation and representing our country in Arezzo, Italy, considered the most prestigious of the top 6 choir competitions in the world.
In 2001, the University of the Philippines Singing Ambassadors became the first Filipino choral group to win the grand prize in Arezzo, Italy. Just one of the many awards and recognitions the UPSA has received in international music competitions. While in Bonn, Germany, where I caught up with Dr. Mangiat, he and some of the members of his group attended the Iglesia ni Cristo worship service. And even here, he and his group continued to inspire others through music. As part of their outreach program, they rendered songs to the great delight of the audience.
Ang isang katulad mo, ako rin ba'y iniibig mo? Dinggin, puso'y sumasamo, sinusumpa sa'yo, ikaw ang tanging dalangin ko.
Besides singing, the University of the Philippines Singing Ambassadors also generously offered some voice training.
And it is really a joy and really a fulfillment to meet our kababayans here, to meet new friends, because this is our own little way of ambassadoring through music and somehow in our own little way help uplift the image of our country. Of course, we know that the European community are very fond of music, and when they see that their friends are have high musicality, nag-iiba po ang tingin sa atin.
Katulad ko sa iyo, biro-biro ang simula, ang wakas pa lang ay ano. Ayaw ako, ngunit yan ay di totoo, dahil sa iyo, puso kong ito'y binihag mo. When I see your face, there's nothing that I won't change, 'cause you're amazing, just the way you are. And when you smile, the whole world stops and stares for a while, 'cause you're amazing, just the way you are. The way you are.
From Germany, the UP Singing Ambassadors will proceed to Spain, Italy, Switzerland, Belgium, and France. To the whole group, we send you our wishes and we wish you more success. Right here in Bonn, Germany, Marilu Francisco for Eagle News, and I am one with 25.
Eagle News International will be right back.
Welcome back. President Duterte led the groundbreaking ceremony of the Binondo Intramuros Bridge in Manila, the Estrella-Pantaleon Bridge connecting the cities of Mandaluyong and Makati City. The president was joined by Chinese ambassador to the Philippines, Zhao Jinhua, and cabinet members including Department of Public Works and Highways Secretary Mark Villar and Executive Secretary Salvador Medaldea. The president said the China-funded bridges are an important part of the government's Build, Build, Build infrastructure program, which is comprised of 79 flagship projects, including roads, bridges, railways, airports, seaports, and irrigation systems. According to the DPWH, the 4.243 billion peso Binondo Intramuros Bridge project is two-way four-lane bridge with a total length of 734 meters, envisioned to provide Binondo District a new link to Intramuros and vice versa.
China never asked for any, not even 1 square of real estate in this country. Its geopolitics position is something which is critical to China, and the stand which we disagreed as we filed the arbitration case. But in the meantime, that we are talking about a concerted effort of both countries to develop is going on. And so allow China, will allow them the sufficient period to sort out things, and I'm sure that in the end, China will be fair and the equity will be distributed.
Meanwhile, Chinese ambassador to the Philippines, Zhao Jinhua, assured Tuesday that the Philippines would not fall into a debt trap, even after it took Chinese loans to bolster the Duterte administration's Build, Build, Build infrastructure program. Zhao said even the two bridge projects to be constructed for free by China along Pasig River don't have any strings attached.
Under the wise leadership of the President Duterte and the economic management team headed by Secretary Dominguez, they are smart enough not to allow the Philippines to fall into the so-called debt trap. And China will honor this commitment to make sure those projects will benefit the Filipino people, will not have any negative impact on the social and economic development of the Philippines.
The two projects to be funded by Chinese grant included the 734-meter Binondo Intramuros Bridge and the 506.46-meter Estrella-Pantaleon Bridge in Mandaluyong. Zhao said China is also positively considering soft loans for 5 more bridge projects along Pasig River.
President Rodrigo Roa Duterte on Tuesday, July 17, led the traditional ceremonial welcome for the brand new planes of Philippine Airlines, noting that the flag carriers' recent achievements and initiatives will encourage more tourists to travel to the country. President Duterte expressed his profound gratitude to PAL and Cebu Pacific for helping the government in bringing home distressed Filipinos from Kuwait.
Let me just express my profound gratitude to the 2 airlines that helped government during the Kuwait stressful moments, not a crisis. And I requested, though it had the money then, Philippine Airlines and Cebu Pacific to fly to Kuwait and bring in some of our countrymen who were there in distress.
The flag carrier said the event marks a historic milestone in the Philippines aviation as 2 of the most advanced commercial aircraft joined PAL's fleet, allowing it to operate longer range routes to North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific regions.
These new airplanes we aim to reclaim our stature as one of the world's best airlines, to be a beacon of hope that Filipinos can set the standard of excellence and be the best of what we do.
The chief executive started that the tourism sector is full of exciting opportunities that do not only showcase the Philippines' unique heritage, but also serves as a crucial instrument for the development of the livelihood of the people. During the rollout ceremony for PAO's Airbus A350 WX or XWB and A320 or A321neo, he commended the airline for its efforts to deliver quality flight experience to all its passengers by modernizing its fleet, expanding its reach, and providing wholehearted care that is distinctively Filipino.
I note that all the airline's recent accomplishments and existing initiatives will encourage more people to travel to the Philippines, thereby boosting our tourism industry. Do remember that you serve as a gateway to the beauty of our islands and the vibrancy of our culture.
Ethiopian Airlines launched flights to Eritrea's capital Asmara following the reopening of the Eritrean embassy in Addis Ababa, the latest in a series of dizzying peace moves after 2 decades of war between the neighbors. Since signing an agreement in Asmara on July 9 to restore ties, the leaders of Eritrea and Ethiopia have moved swiftly to implement concrete signs of a stunning rapprochement that has swept away 2 decades of hostility since conflict erupted over a disrupted frontier in 1998. The first commercial flight to Eritrea in 2 decades departed Wednesday from Addis Ababa after the two nations ended their bitter conflict following the whirlwind peace process. Ethiopian Airlines said that flight ET0312 to Asmara had departed Bole International Airport after a ceremony inaugurating the historic flight. Overwhelming demand saw the African aviation giant operate 2 flights within 15 minutes of each other. Once a province of Ethiopia, Eritrea seceded in 1993 after a long independence struggle. A row over the demarcation of the shared border triggered a brutal 1998 to 2000 conflict which left 80,000 people dead before evolving into a bitter Cold War. In a surprise move, Ethiopia's new reformist Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed last month announced he would finally accept a 2002 UN-backed border demarcation, paving the way for peace between the two nations. He then paid a historic visit to Eritrea, during which he and President Isaias Afwerki declared an official end to the war. Afwerki reciprocated with a state visit to Ethiopia just days later.
The European Union is to impose a 4.3 billion euro fine on Google on Wednesday for abusing the dominant market position of its Android smartphone system, a source close to the matter told AFP. EU Competition Commissioner Margrethe Vestager is set to announce that the fine when she gives a press conference at 1100 GMT in Brussels, the source said, on condition of anonymity. The antitrust chief is also expected to order Google to make major changes to Android, which is used to around 80% of phones in Europe. The new fine will, if confirmed, surpass the 2.4 billion euro penalty that the EU imposed on Google over its shopping comparison service in 2017. The long-awaited decision comes as fears of a transatlantic trade war mount due to President Donald Trump's decision to impose tariffs on European steel and aluminum exports. Google Search and Chrome are, as a result, pre-installed on the significant majority of devices sold in the EU. The complaint, formally lodged in April, also accuses Google of preventing manufacturers from selling smartphones that run on rival operating systems based on the Android open source code. The Commission said Google also gave financial incentives to manufacturers and mobile network operators if they pre-installed Google Search on their devices.
In other news, Mumbai faces a milk shortage. The effects of striking dairy farmers in rural Indian areas will make their way to the Mumbai region as protesters continue to forcibly detain milk tankers headed towards the city. One of the leaders, MKS President Ajit Nawali, said the government's announcement of 50 rupees per kilogram subsidy for milk powder may not benefit the farmers since the prices of milk powder have come down in the international market, but would be a boon to private companies which convert milk into powder. Beset by low demand, farmers are insisting on increased procurement prices and subsidies before they'll let the milk flow.
Along a quiet residential street on the outer edges of Beijing, a yellow and black cube about the size of a small washing machine trundles leisurely to its destination. The small six-wheeled vehicle is an autonomous delivery robot ferrying daily essentials like drinks, food, and snacks to residents of the Chinese capital.
因为现在每天的快递的包裹量会从每天1亿单增长到每天10亿单，那未来需要越来越多的机器人来弥补劳动力的缺口。这个机器人主要是来完成最后1公里的配送的，它拥有一个激光雷达和4个摄像头，可以完成最后3到5公里的配送。
Eagle News International will be right back. right, welcome back. A vast fire in Northern California has destroyed 50 or more than 12,000 acres, left one person dead, and is now threatening the Yosemite National Park. The Ferguson fire has been raging in the Sierra Nevada forest since last Friday. The fire has had tremendous fuel in terms of wood from dead trees. 27 million died last year and 62 million the previous one after years of drought, plus leaves and grass dried by intense heat. Evacuations were ordered in several camps and in other areas. CAL FIRE asked people to get ready to flee given high temperatures forecast for the next few days. The fire forced the closure of a highway and one of the entrances to Yosemite National Park, famous for its ancient giant sequoia trees. Authorities urged tourists to postpone visits to this iconic California tourist spot. In addition to California, the states of Alaska, Colorado, and Idaho were also coping with wildfires.
Let's get the latest update from Chris Perez from Pagasa. Chris?
Good evening. The southwest monsoon will continue to bring monsoon rains over the Ilocos region, Cordillera Administrative region, Cagayan Valley region, Bataan, and Zambales. Residents of these areas are alerted against possible flash floods and landslides and are to continue to coordinate and cooperate with their local government and disaster risk reduction management offices for disaster mitigation measures. Meanwhile, Metro Manila and the rest of Luzon will experience occasional rains, while Visayas and Mindanao will experience partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers or thunderstorms. Meanwhile, the center of tropical depression in Dai was estimated at around 755 kilometers east of Basico, Batanes. This tropical cyclone has yet to affect any part of the country. However, it will continue to enhance the southwest monsoon, which is currently affecting most parts of Luzon, including Metro Manila. The next update about tropical depression in Dai will be issued at 11 p.m. tonight. And that's the latest from the Pagasa Weather Forecasting Center. This is Chris Perez reporting.
Okay, thank you, Chris Perez from Pagasa. Okay, don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also, check out our boards and Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us, and that's it for tonight's broadcast about Los Angeles, and
we're one with 25.